The palace faded behind her, smoke and flames licking the sky. Aiza's bare feet sank into the mud as the forest welcomed her, wild, unpredictable, merciless. Each step was a test, each breath a challenge. Rain soaked her tattered gown, leaves clinging to mud-streaked skin. Roots tangled her feet, branches scratched her arms. Yet she pressed on, learning quickly that survival demanded more than courage, it demanded wit. She gnawed on burnt roots, poked at damp soil for fruit, tried to start a fire with trembling hands. The forest did not care she was a princess. It only cared that she adapt or perish. From the shadows emerged survivors of her kingdom, faces etched with fear and resolve. Together they whispered plans, shared meager finds. Trust and unity became their only shield against the dangers ahead. Suddenly the forest fell silent, broken by thundering footsteps of Mbei's warriors. Aiza stumbled, chained, dragged through mud and leaves. Embarrassment and exasperation danced on her face, yet her eyes burned with determination. The forest held its breath. Aiza's eyes darted through the shadows, wary yet curious as the young prince appeared watching from the trees. Every movement was calculated, every glance a promise of hope.
You realize this cage is quite sturdy.
He whispered through the quiet night,
Trust me.
A single line carrying the weight of his care. Aiza's heart fluttered, hope and caution mingling, as she met his gaze, unsure but willing to believe. A soft smile broke across her face, a mixture of exasperation and relief. Silent, yet loud in meaning, she was ready to follow, to trust, to hope. Chinedu crouched closer, scanning the shadows for prying eyes. Each subtle movement was careful, deliberate, a promise hidden in plain sight. Aiza watched, her small smirk betraying both amusement and anticipation. He extended his hand through the cage bars, slow, deliberate, as though every second counted. Aiza reached toward him, fingers trembling with trust, laughter and tension twining in the night air. "What took you so long?" she whispered, a playful rebuke softened by relief.
I apologize.
Chinedu's calm voice responded, "I had to make sure no one was watching. I couldn't risk you getting hurt."
Ready?
Their hands nearly touched, firelight flickering across their faces, and for the first time in this dark forest, hope, and perhaps something more, ignited. The night grew restless, shadows stretching across the forest clearing. Chains loosened quietly, wood creaking softly as freedom drew near. Aiza's heart pounded in rhythm with the distant forest drums. She glanced back once at the cage that had humbled her, then forward, toward a future she could no longer avoid. Chinedu moved first, silent as the wind through the trees. He signaled her to follow, not with words, but with certainty. Tonight, trust was their only weapon. She nearly slipped in the mud, feet squelching softly. Chinedu steadied the cage door and subtly gestured downward, patience and reassurance in every move. A soft smile broke across her face, a mixture of exasperation, relief, and faint humor as she followed him into the shadows. They pressed low, stepping silently into the forest. Torchlight barely missed them, flickering over leaves and mud, heightening every heartbeat. Finally, they pressed lightly into dense foliage, breath released in quiet relief. Aiza straightened slightly, brushing mud from her hands, eyes meeting Chinedu's in mutual understanding. No words were spoken, but trust was solidified, A silent promise formed in the night. For the first time since exile, she was not alone. And for the first time, Chinedu walked beside her, not just as a prince, but as a protector, a guide, and perhaps something more. The cage was left behind, abandoned and silent. Aiza's bare feet pressed into the muddy forest floor, feeling every root and leaf with cautious awareness. She glanced at Chinedu, who moved slightly ahead, eyes scanning the shadows, every muscle coiled in quiet vigilance. The night air was heavy, carrying distant torchlight and the soft echo of footsteps they could not yet see. Aiza stumbled on a wet root, and a soft exhale of surprise escaped her. Chinedu's hand reached out instantly, steadying her without pulling, a silent promise of protection. Together, they moved deeper into the forest, bodies low, careful to leave no trace. Each glance between them carried unspoken trust, and a subtle warmth began to flicker between shadows. The sounds of the night grew sharper. A twig snapped nearby, a branch scraped against another, and they froze, holding their breath. Aiza's hand lightly brushed against Chinedu's arm, seeking both reassurance and connection. Finally, they reached a slightly more open clearing, moonlight breaking through the canopy to illuminate their faces. For the first time, Aiza could inhale deeply without immediate fear, though the forest still held danger. Chinedu's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering, as if saying without words, "We'll get through this, together." The night stretched on, dense and alive, but for these two fugitives, the first taste of freedom had arrived. And though the shadows remained, the bond between them had grown stronger in silence, trust, and shared resolve.